Now, cyclones usually wreak havoc and move on, but not Cyclone Freddy. The tropical storm, which killed 27 people in Mozambique and Madagascar after it made landfall last month, is heading boomerang-like back to parts of southern Africa. The effects are already being felt in coastal areas of Mozambique, as I've been hearing from the BBC's correspondent in the capital, Maputo, Jose Tembe.
Zambezia province in central Mozambique is the epicenter of Cyclone Freddy. It's already experiencing devastating effects since early this morning, with heavy rains and strong winds of up to 190 kilometers an hour, according to meteorologists. The government has prepositioned supplies, including food, medicine, tents, and rescue vessels. It advised people to stay indoors, stay away from rivers and seas, avoid staying under trees, and evacuate risk areas and seek safer places. People are also advised to stock food and water for a minimum of 3 days. People are surprised that the same cyclone comes, goes, and comes back. Some think Cyclone Freddy is acting like a malicious person who is unhappy about the little damages made in the first passage, and it comes back to do the worst.
Well, we can cross now to the seaport of Quelimane, which is capital of Mozambique, Zambezia province. And joining us there is Guy Taylor, spokesman for the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. Guy, welcome to the programme. You've been out and about today. What's the situation like there?
Yeah, we've been seeing an intensification of wind in the last few hours, and that's adding on to the quite heavy rain which we've been seeing today and over the past few days. I've been out in the communities in the area, and we've seen already quite substantial flooding, people wading through kind of knee-high water, and people already experiencing damage and flooding to their homes. So, we're still in the early stages of this cyclone, so there's a lot of potential, I think, for things to get worse. But already, with this just initial wind and rain, it's already quite a serious situation here. The
early stages of this impact, but it's been there already, more to the south, I think. What have people actually been able to do to prepare where you are?
That's right. Well, I mean, it's very difficult to prepare for a storm of this potential magnitude. People are trying to prepare. UNICEF is working with our UN partners, with government, with local NGOs to prepare, to plan, to assess the impact and make sure we're ready to respond once the cyclone's passed over. As your correspondent was saying, we've also been pre-positioning large quantities of essential supplies and working with government to make sure we can ensure continuity of critical life-saving services. But it's very difficult. Mozambique is a country that's facing many humanitarian challenges already, about 2 million people in the north in need of humanitarian assistance, combating a cholera outbreak, leading a large-scale polio vaccination campaign, and this is a country already facing widespread poverty. So it's a very challenging situation, I think.
Guy, many thanks. And Guy Taylor there, who speaks for the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF in Quelimane seaport there in Mozambique. Let's find out a bit more about why this is happening. It's unusual. Professor Francois Engelbrecht is with Wits University's Global Change Institute in Johannesburg and joins us now. Professor Engelbrecht, I think this is the fourth landfall we're now seeing of this cyclone. What is the science that explains this?
Afternoon, James. Yes, this storm has followed an absolutely exceptional track over the Indian Ocean. It's now the 54th day since it was first classified as a tropical cyclone back on the 6th of February. And that was over the far eastern part of the Indian Ocean. So as you've mentioned, the storm has now already made landfall over Madagascar twice. And there was also the first landfall over Mozambique back on the 24th of February. So twice the storm has re-emerged into the Mozambique Channel after landfall. And right now, as we speak, the storm is making the fourth landfall, more or less at Quelimane in the northern part of Mozambique. So the fourth landfall in Madagascar and southern Africa, this is something we've never seen in this part of the world before. And the storm is now also the longest-lived tropical cyclone on record globally.
So why is it behaving so unusually? What's causing this?
I think formal attribution science is going to show that this is a consequence of warmer sea surface temperatures in the Indian Ocean. This storm has been drawing in moisture and warm air from the North Indian Ocean during its lifetime, and earlier also from the east of Madagascar. In this part of the world, sea surface temperatures are currently about 1 degree Celsius higher than they are supposed to be. And that means there's more energy available for the storm to fuel itself. There's more water vapor available, which is another important fuel of energy for a tropical cyclone. And this storm has been able to maintain itself for about 2 weeks in the Mozambique Channel. As I've mentioned, we have not seen this type of behavior before from a tropical cyclone. But it's not inconsistent with what climate change science is telling us, because in a warmer world generally, because of these higher sea surface temperatures, tropical cyclones are today already causing about 10% more rainfall than in the past. Also here in the Southwest Indian Ocean, in this part of the world. And what we're also observing globally is the ability of these storms to refuel themselves faster than in the past. We say that tropical cyclone intensification occurs faster than, say, 30 years ago, once the storms are over warm water. And I think that is also what we've observed in the Mozambique Channel over the last 2 weeks.
So you're struck by this, everyone's struck by the fact that this is lasting longer than previous cyclones. Is, though, this going to become something we have to get used to? People, certainly in that part of the world, maybe other parts of the world, have to get used to these recurring cyclones.
That is unfortunately the case, James. I think for this part of the world, it's already clear that over the last 2 decades, for the first time, we've started to observe Category 4 and 5 hurricanes, as they would be referred to in other parts of the world, here in the Southwest Indian Ocean. So more intense tropical cyclones are now forming in the Southwest Indian Ocean. And there's already properly reviewed research indicating that the storms are causing more rainfall than in the past when they make landfall. Now, in a world that is committed to further warming over the next 2 decades, that's an unfortunate fact. We should therefore expect a further intensification of tropical cyclone impacts across Madagascar and also in Southern Africa.
And in terms of the kind of damage they might do, is that going to change?
Yes, well, these storms bring, of course, a whole range of different impacts to a really vulnerable part of the world. Category 4 hurricanes, or in this part of the world, we would refer to these as intense tropical cyclones, of course, are associated with winds blowing at more than 200 kilometers an hour. Now, just imagine the risk if you are living in informal housing, as millions of people in Mozambique and Madagascar unfortunately do.
That sounds...
So it's unsurvivable. It's unsurvivable in the presence of that type of magnitude of winds.
We have to leave it there. Professor Engelbrecht, thanks very much. You're listening to NewsHour.